Hi, Daryl Bars, that channel. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Leanne Babcock, the author of Open Me. A great story about her own journey of journey from fear to freedom. And Leanne, you're here to tell us about this book. So, what's the book about in simple terms?
Right. Well, thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so, the book is about relationship and love and compromise and risk and following our own deep inner wisdom or intuition. And so it is a true story, a magical true story.
Okay.
And
What makes it magical, in a sense?
well, there were all these miracles that happened, because I just kept following my intuition, and let me tell you a bit about that.
Okay.
And so, there I was in my life. So the true story, it is a part of my life, right? And I was at a time in my life when I really thought I had made it. I had the business, the husband, the lifestyle, and then I get this really loud, intuitive message. Now, I just want to preface that by saying, I had a lot of psychic experiences as a little girl, and so so psychic phenomena and intuition is natural to me. It's one of the things that I teach,
Okay.
and so I got this intuitive message to leave, which was the last thing on my mind. And but it was, the when an intuitive message just becomes stronger and stronger, and it was like I had never even considered it, but as it kept kind of percolating inside of me, the truth of it started screaming at me. And I just knew I had to follow it. And even though I knew my whole world was going to fall apart, and I essentially had nothing to rely on once I left, other than my intuition. And so I began a journey of literally sitting down and meditating and just going and asking, my own wisdom inside. Okay, what am I going to do now? What do I do next? And I would get an answer, and then I would do that. So it's taken, just embarking on that journey took all the courage I had.
Yeah.
But then what started happening were miracles. Miracles started happening everywhere, and that's when I started to actually keep a diary, because I don't usually keep a diary.
Right.
But I did, and that was actually the beginnings of this book.
Right. So the idea was then something is telling me that maybe I should keep a record of this because it's pretty important. It feels important. It feels like I might want to share this later. You never know.
Yeah.
So, and there you have it. So that's good. And what were some of the things that sort of magically kept happening as you listened to your intuition? Like as you made this split with your old life to the new, what did you do?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know what I was going to do because I didn't have a plan,
Okay.
because I wasn't thinking about it, right? And so I was then guided to go on a spiritual journey. And so that's also a big part in the book. And one of the things that happened was one of the miracles. I had booked myself on a course called the Shadow Process, and it was in New York with Debbie Ford, who's now passed away, at the Omega Institute.
Right.
And I was in London. And so I was sitting there in my motel room looking at my itinerary for the next day. And it was, it wasn't the first time, but it was the first time that it dawned on me. I didn't have enough time to catch my connecting flight. There was 2 hours from the time I arrived from London, to Philadelphia, arrive in Philadelphia, and then catch a domestic flight, which was at the furthest end of the terminal where I was arriving. And it was also at the time when all of the security in the airport was heightened.
Right. So you keep taking your shoes off.
Yes, you know, and I just knew I was not going to make it. And the course was only one weekend, and I had been wanting to do it for 18 months.
Wow.
And the shadow process, it was all about facing your inner demons and making peace with yourself. And it was just so important to me. And I thought, you know, have I come this far and just to miss this course? And, you know, I was kind of a bit, you know, annoyed with myself, you know, because I tend to be quite spontaneous and think, oh, you know, don't always look at the details. And now it was like, whoa. And so I did the only thing I knew to do. And I asked for whoever is in charge of miracles to make one happen. And then I noticed that I felt really drawn, like my body wanted to repack my bags. I know this might sound strange, right? But and to put all of my overnight things in my carry-on bag. Now I have never done that, you know, and my mind is going, why are you doing that? Are you going to lose your bag? You never do that. What's, you know, and I'm just like, I start humming because I have to do something to shut my mind up because it's just scaring me, right? But I am just trusting this, you know, because I've asked for help, right? So then I got to listen. And so I'm packing my bag, my overnight bag, and that's it. I then arrive in Philadelphia. Fine, you know, timing is great, go through customs, and then there I am checking my luggage in for my next flight, and the woman retags my bag, and then she pushes my bag back at me. And I said, you know, but you're supposed to take my bag. Like, I thought I'm leaving it with her. And she said no, and she's giving me instructions on what to do with my bag. And that's when things went really wrong, because I can't understand what she's saying. Now, she is speaking English. She was an American woman, and I asked her 3 times, and it was like I had cotton wool in my ears, and all I could hear was and so I'm looking at the long lineup behind me, and I'm thinking, I can't ask her to repeat it a 4th time. And so I stepped back. I didn't realize I wasn't actually supposed to understand her. And so I stepped back from the queue, and I did know that I was supposed to put my luggage on the X-ray machine, which is in the middle of the airport hall. And so I put it on the conveyor belt, and then I stood there just waiting for a sign. And then this security guard walks by, and he goes, "Are you going to Terminal F?" And I looked around, and there's hundreds of people around me.
Why are you talking to me?
And why are you talking to me? Yeah. And I said, yes, because that was the terminal I needed to catch my flight. And he said, well, follow me. And he just kept walking. And I said, yeah, but the woman pointed over in the opposite direction. And, you know, he just shrugged and kept walking. And I had a split second to decide if I was going to follow him. And my whole body wanted to follow him. And so I did. And in the spontaneity of the moment, totally forgot about my luggage. Like, the thought of it didn't even enter my head. So I left it in the middle of the floor in the airport, right? And so I go off following the security guard, and I'm just watching the top of his head. It disappears, and then I can't see him anymore, but I start seeing a sign for Terminal F. Sweet. I arrive at that place, and there's 100 people there waiting to go through security, and it's not Terminal F, it's actually the shuttle to take people to all the different terminals. And so I know then I'm not going to make it. I've got 20 minutes now to get to my flight. And so I just stood there, and I just started to breathe just really nice and deep. It's a meditative breath, right? Just to calm myself and tell myself, you know, whatever happens is actually supposed to happen. And if I'm meant to miss that course, then I'm meant to miss that course. And that's just how it is. And I looked around, and another security guard, he's about, 20, 30 feet away from me. He's in the middle of this 100 people. And he looks at me, he speaks to everybody, and he says, is anybody going to Terminal F? And I look around, and nobody is making any recognition, like he's even
Right.
said anything. It's like they didn't hear him.
Mm-hmm.
And I raised my hand, and he motioned me over and looked at my ticket, and he says, "You're not going to make it if you stay here." He said, "Here's what you can do. You can go down those stairs outside of the terminal, catch the employees shuttle to Terminal F,
Right.
and go through security there."
Wow. And you did that.
I did that, and I knew I was walking a miracle. And I made the flight. I got to the course. Oh, my baggage, by the way, was another miracle. I got that too.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So that beginning, things are speaking to you all over the place. Miracles are happening.
Yeah.
And then, so you continued on. You walked this path. And then what what spurred you to want to put it in book form and share this message?
Yeah. Well, I didn't even plan to write a book. And I just had diary notes I had kept along the way, because with all these miracles happening, I thought, nobody's going to believe me. So, for the first time, I just started making notes. And I then, after the journey, I thought, oh, what the heck? It's a really interesting story. And I just sent it off to an editor.
Right.
Just like that, right? And she sent it back, and she said, "Leanne, I think you should take writing lessons." And even though I took it all personally and it crushed me, fair enough. I mean, I made no effort to make it into a story, to make it interesting or in any way, or easy to read. And so I figured, oh well, I'll maybe I'm not the writer. I'll get a ghostwriter. And so I interviewed a couple of ghostwriters. One woman came back and she said, "I can't be your ghostwriter. I haven't had the metaphysical experiences that you've had, but I want you to know, though, that your book has already made a difference with me." Nice. And I've decided to leave my husband, which I've been wanting to do for some time. And I just sat there in shock, really. Yeah. And because I didn't want to write a book that was about that made women leave their husbands. Yeah. So and then the second ghostwriter came back to me and she said, "Leanne, I can't write your book." She says, "I'm now going to be too busy writing my own book." She says, "But I want you to know that your book is a page turner." And I could not put it down. I had to keep turning and finding out what was going to happen next. And so I realized that, firstly, my book had to be in my words, had to be in my voice. Yeah. And that it clearly had a message that did something for people.
Resonated with people. Right.
Yeah. And made them want to, take action somewhere. So the book wanted to be born. And so I found a writing coach because I thought, you know what, I am going to train myself to write. And I wrote blogs and that kind of thing, but that's different from writing a novel because this is like a novel to read. And I chose someone who's she's an acclaimed published author, and she was a phenomenal coach. And I worked with a couple of editors, and fantastic journey. I highly recommend.
Nice. And here it is, just like that.
I know. And
I read half last night, and it read really well. So it is a page turner, and I'm waiting to find out what happened. I just got past the Glastonbury part.
Right.
And did you want to mention anything about stuff that happened there? Because that seemed pretty transformative.
Everything was. Like every moment I kept, I kept a diary of miracles, and I realized that miracles happened every day, and I just had not been listening. Yeah. So
now you're listening, and there it is. So you got the book is done.
Yes.
And you're traveling around.
Yeah,
offering the book for people.
And I am, and that's actually led me on the next journey because you see, I grew up in Hamilton, Ontario, right? And about 30 years ago, I met a Kiwi, and we married and moved to New Zealand. And so I have been living in New Zealand for 29 years. Love New Zealand. Never planned on coming back to Canada, right? And then Well, my plans and what the greater plans are of things are not always the same thing. And so, as I have continued actually doing the process that led me to write the book, of just sitting and meditating, and it's like, okay, where am I going now? I got this message really loud and strong that said, move to Canada.
Canada.
I know.
Yes.
And my first response was,
Just too much snow.
no, I don't want to go back. You know, I mean, as much as I love Canada, you know, like I love New Zealand, there was no reason to leave it, you know, but you see, our intuition isn't, it's not reasonable. It doesn't follow the path of logic. And so
You can't control it.
no, and I knew, and the message was, I mean, I got that message from so many different avenues. I would have dreams about it. I remember one time I woke up bolt upright, and it was like, oh my God, I'm going back to Canada. But I still hadn't. It was like, no, it's just, you know, it's a big move. And then, have you ever been to see a healer or a psychic person? Okay, so I was going to see this healer guy, and on my way driving there, I told the universe, I said, okay, if I'm supposed to move to Canada, I want you to have that message come through this guy so loud and clear
That there's no doubt.
that there's no doubt. I don't want to interpret symbols and that kind of thing, okay? And so he did the session. It was really good. I told him nothing about me. And at the very end of the session, he said, oh, and by the way, you're moving to Canada.
Really? Just like that?
Just like that.
And this is in New Zealand?
Yes.
Yeah, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Just like that. So, you know.
Other than he knew you were Canadian.
Well, my
Your
accent.
accent, yeah. Okay.
You know, that's a giveaway. But, you know, it's like when an intuitive message is that strong, it's, I know, if I don't follow it, something's not going to be right. You know? And so, and that's actually part of the work I do. So, you know, the business I run, I've been, you know, for 25 years, coaching and training and, you know, courses on intuition and shamanic retreats, weekend retreats. And so, you know, like I know and we have free will. So, but I know when I'm not listening,
it takes guts to listen to your intuition. Well,
And actually, there's two key messages in the book.
Right.
And so the first message is, you know, in our day-to-day life right now, where we are right now on the planet, we are dealing with so much. We're dealing with climate change. We're dealing with extinction. We're dealing with political issues, racial issues, gender issues, relationship, financial, and, you know, even life purpose. Why am I here and who am I? And you know, I'm reminded of a quote from Einstein, which went something like this. I'm going to try and remember it. We cannot solve the problems of the day in the same consciousness in which these problems were created. And so it's like our circumstances that we're living in right now are inviting us. They're inviting a
paradigm shift.
You know, like an expanded consciousness, a wiser consciousness. And I really believe that consciousness is inside of us. It's not outside of us.
You just have to tap into it.
That's right, exactly. And we tap into it when we do things like meditate, when we go into nature, and when we develop our intuition. And so, you know, the first message from the book is to listen deeply to our own inner wisdom inside. And the second message in the book is trust. You know, because our own deep inner wisdom is not guided by, you know, society's rules and our cultural, you know, rights and wrongs and what we're supposed to do. It's no longer about fitting in. And so
about being yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Being authentically yourself.
Authentically yourself. And it's about trusting and having the courage to trust and to listen. And I really think that that's actually what's needed today.
Great. So we'll find that here. This is the place.
You will. You'll find that
Find
there.
that here.
Yes.
The inspiration to do that. And
Yes.
then you're writing another book as well?
I am.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I am. I'm on the final stages of editing right now. So my second book is called Real and Wild You.
Okay.
Your daring and magical inner journey. So it's a self-coaching guide.
So you read this, you go to that next. And
Well,
this is what will help each of us on our journey, in a sense, right? With the guide.
awesome plan.
Yeah.
Awesome plan.
That
Yes.
would be it.
Yes. The coaching guide, I'm writing it to be independent.
Okay.
And so, yes, read them together because they'll certainly,
create
accompany.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they can be separate. And so I'm actually going to be in Toronto until, so I've been, my messages, intuitive messages have guided me to be here
Right.
Until April.
Okay.
And so I'll be planning my book tour for 2019. And if people want to find out what I'm up to,
Yeah. Where do they get in touch with you?
my website is the best thing. So
Okay.
go
the
to,
best thing.
is the best way to find out.
The best
about.
way to find out.
Yes.
It's that long. So what does it say? It says.
LeanneBabcock.ca.
So that's all we need. Is LeanneBabcock.ca.
Yes.
Okay.
Or you can do openme.ca.
Okay, so openme.ca or the name LeanneBabcock.ca and find out what you're up to, get in touch with you, ask you questions.
Totally. Join my newsletter.
Check
Find
out
out
your life
what's
coaching, different
Yep.
things that you do.
That's right.
Excellent. That sounds great. So
Yeah.
for all Canadians out there, here's your chance while you're here in Canada still, because who knows where you're going next, right?
That's right.
Who knows?
I've got a plan, but
Got a plan, but we don't know what it is, and neither do you. Okay. All right. Thanks, Leanne, for coming in today. Been a pleasure, and I'm going to finish this book. And
awesome.
it's really speaking to me nicely. Thank
Thank
you very
you
much.
so much, Daryl.
Thank you.
Thank you.